I would like to begin, as always, by welcoming the members of Yibineh to the KLM series, and for all the other listeners on YouTube. I'm really hoping that this year is going to help a lot. So let me begin and explain. All right. Hanukkah, in the middle of a war, suffering all around, fear, anxiety, suffering for the soldiers, for the captives, anti-Semitism all over the place. So this doesn't really feel like the spirit of Hanukkah, right? Like how are we going to celebrate, right, this holiday when everybody's in pain and suffering? I am going to deal with that. I have some help from very special rabbis on that point, but I'm saving that for the end, okay? Before we discuss celebrating Hanukkah now, before we do that, let's learn how to approach Hanukkah in a way that will significantly contribute to what we're looking for: salvation, a relief of suffering, etc. Okay? Now, you know what my approach is. My approach is, let's do the mitzvahs really well, and doing them really well requires kavana, having intentionality and focus on what we're doing. So that's what we're going to do. But before we get into that, I want to explain, I want to give you, it's my job to tell you many times about the value of this, because, I mean, few seconds thought, what's that doing? This action over wherever you live, what's that doing? So I need to go over this, but I want to give you a new angle, all right? One of the greatest holy books of all time is Chovos HaLevavos, Duties of the Heart, by Rabbi Baruch. And he says there, he gives a wonderful metaphor that I hope will get the point across why mitzvahs are so important, okay? He says like this, to understand causality, right, takes maturity, okay? It takes perceptual maturity. He gives the following example. Let's say you have a newborn baby, and the newborn baby needs to survive and exist. How does the baby, what's his initial sustenance? It's the mother's milk, right? So at the very beginning, what does the baby see as where his sustenance is coming from? The baby sees it from the mother's breast, okay? Now, let's say he gets older. Maybe he's 2 years old, 3 years old. I can't tell you, I'm not Piaget. But he gets a little older and then he goes, it's mommy, right? Then the baby goes from the breast to mommy, okay? Then the baby gets a little older and realizes, who paid for this home we're in? Who's bringing in the money? Now, it could be mommy also, but there's a daddy. So daddy is the source of his sustenance, right? Then he realizes daddy has a job and a boss, an employer. And then he realizes work can bring this. So what do we see here? It takes maturity to realize that the immediate upfront cause is not the primary cause. Okay, in other words, the milk from the breast, the mother has to pick up the baby, etc. The mother, there's a lot has to go on, right? And then at first we tend to react with the most direct in front of us cause is the important one. But if you trace it back, it's usually the more significant cause is more distant. A very important point. Now, what do we know is the primary cause, is really the most distant cause from what we see, and that's Hashem. In other words, so look, someone shoots a gun. So did the gun kill the person, right? There was someone holding the gun, right? There was something that got the person to do it. A lot of steps, but if you go back, we as believing Jews, divine providence says that Hashem is the primary cause, if you will. Okay, there's free will. I don't want to get into that. But so here's the point. Why are mitzvahs a very powerful, if you will, military strategy to defeat the enemy, to help people be safe and in welfare? Okay, so first of all, by the way, let's keep in mind that the Torah and its mitzvahs, the Talmud explains, they're magen and matzlet. They protect and they save. Now, who is the real general? It says Hashem is Ish Milchama. Hashem is if you will, he's the master of war. Okay? Now, probably speaking, if I do something that is really what the general, the Ish Milchama, the master of war, what he wants, that is going to have a tremendous impact and help all the military strategists and the courageous soldiers, and all their success is when if we have the favor of the one who's going to make this all happen, huge impact. It'll empower everybody there. One person shared with me, and then we're going to get into it. One person shared with me that, over in the United States, they feel so, I wish we could do more. What do we have? And they have prayer, but we also have the mitzvah. So let's dive into Hanukkah. My point is to say that don't underestimate the impact of doing a mitzvah well, doing a mitzvah with intention, and connecting to the holiday. All right? Don't underestimate that, because it's so influential, so influential. All right. So what I want to do for this year is the following. I want to focus on the main mitzvah of Hanukkah, lighting the menorah, Hadlakas Neros of Hanukkah. I want us to really get clear what exactly we have to do, what we have to think, and what we have to feel. That's going to be the focus. Hadlakas Neros. I want you to really have wonderful kavanah for that. Then I want to deal with the second thing I'm going to do, which will be basically towards the end. What I want to do then is give you a strategy of a certain mitzvah we can do that can keep our momentum, because Hanukkah is 8 days and we're all excited tomorrow night, but how are we going to be later? So I have a strategy for momentum, and then we'll discuss, like I promised, how do you celebrate Hanukkah in the midst of this war and strife? Okay, let's get down to business. We're going to work on the main mitzvah, which is Hadlakas Neros. So let me share screen. How are we doing, Rabbi Michael? Is it up? Can you see?
Yes, it's loading.
Tell me when it's up.
Okay, good.
Okay, all right. So what do we have here? We have, before we do the main mitzvah, we have making blessings, right? We have 3 brachas to make on the first night of Hanukkah, and then 2 brachas every night, okay? I'm sure people know what they are. But also for the listeners who don't understand what a blessing is, there's different types of blessing. One type of blessing, let's say a rabbi gives you a blessing. So he's really praying to Hashem that you get something good, all right? That's one type of blessing. But there's blessings for mitzvahs, right? And the blessing for a mitzvah is really thanking Hashem for doing an act that sanctifies us, that has a spiritual impact. And of course, it has an incredible impact on the world. That's a privilege. That's a privilege. So the first thing is a birkas, a mitzvah, right? We thank Hashem for doing the mitzvah. Then we have two blessings. Again, these blessings are thanking Hashem, really, right? We're thanking Hashem for the miracles that occurred during Hanukkah, and we're thanking Hashem on the first day. Thanks for letting me be here for another Hanukkah, for another chance to do mitzvahs that can have such an incredible effect. Okay, so those are the three brachas. First mitzvah, when you make a blessing, the first kavanah have is, and this is all can be in your mind, I'm fulfilling a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to make the blessing on the mitzvah, to make the thanking for the miracles, and to make a shechianu, meaning you're doing three mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. So have them mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, according to the Mishnah Berurah, tzrichas kavana. They need kavana as well. So get off to a good start. Before you recite these blessings, have a sacred pause. That's what we call it. Have a sacred pause and have in mind, I'm fulfilling these three mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. Now, here's the good news. Every time you do any mitzvah d'Rabbanan, you are simultaneously doing two separate Torah commandments, right? There's always two Torah commandments in every Rabbanan. Those are separate things. You're being drenched in sanctity by this, okay? So the first is when you fulfill a mitzvah of the Rabbanan, you're fulfilling the Torah commandment to follow what the rabbis enact. That's number one. And you're fulfilling another Torah commandment from Hashem. Don't depart from what the rabbis instruct you. Okay? So, let's see, we have three Rabbanans, and according to that, we have 6 Torah commandments when on the first night we make the blessings. One more, this is a bonus. If you can remember it, great. But the most important is every time you do a Rabbanan, have in mind the mitzvah to fulfill the mitzvah of the rabbis, as Hashem commands. And then, because you're doing a mitzvah of rabbis, the 2 d'oraisas, but also we have a mitzvah. Some say it's d'oraisa, some say it's divrei Kabbalah. That means it's very significant. We have a mitzvah to make 100 blessings a day. So every time you make one towards the 100, you're with that intention. I intend to hit 100 brachas, and this is my path to it. Okay? That's the first step. And I just remind you, Hashem is the Ish Milchama, and we are doing what he wants so much when we fulfill these commandments and when we have intention to do it beforehand. Okay? That's number one. It's huge. Now let's go to the mitzvah of Hadlakas Neros, which is, I think, safe to say is the main mitzvah. It's certainly the main, what we call Maisa mitzvah, the main act of a mitzvah. Okay, here we go. So let us go through the mitzvahs that you fulfill in lighting. And this, if you can get this down and you have 8 days to improve it each time and make a big impact, if you can get this down, you're having such an influence because you're saying, why am I doing this? Ultimately, I'm doing this because I want to bond with the Creator and he commands me to. Okay. So I think it's Rev Pam. All right. This is what I'm about to tell you. Rev Garfinkel said this name, Rev Pam. He says, we have all these beautiful thoughts attached to the miracle of the candles and Hanukkah, and it's so sentimental and beautiful, and you can really put your heart into lighting the candles and the experience, right? But he says, if you don't have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah d'Rabbanan to light the candles, he says, you didn't accomplish much at all. I've used a metaphor in this before, which is, think of a check. You have a check, it has a one, and then the more zeros you add, the more money you're making. Okay? But if you don't have that one in the beginning, 0, 0, 0, I mean, I don't even need to ask Rabbi Michael the math on that. Okay? So here's the thing. Be sure, and here's something else I want to point out to you. I'm going back for a second. The mitzvah to bless on the commandment does not equal kavanah for the mitzvah. If you rely on the fact that you said Asher Kiddush Shanu, believe it or not, and this is the same by Berkos Torah and Learning Torah, it's only b'di'evid. You must have, look at number one on the top, before lighting, but after those brachas. You hear that? You made those three brachas with all the pre-intentions. And before lighting, what you need to do is have in mind the mitzvah rabbanan to light Hanukkah candles. Okay? Reb Pam says that's the one. All the other kavanas we're going to talk about are adding amazing value and zeros, but let's get the one. Don't forget, even though you made a Asher Kiddush Shanu, make sure you say the mitzvah I have in mind, or think, I have in mind the mitzvah to rabbanan to light halakas naros. Okay? Very important. A few seconds of thought, it's going to gain a lot of divine favor, and we need it desperately. Number two, Persumi Nisa. You're publicizing the miracle that Hashem did, right? That's why you have to follow the halachas, you put it in the right place. All of that, you can think about it. Putting it in the right place, using the oil, which was the same as the miracle. These are things are publicizing the miracle, all right? So have in mind also, right? This is like you made the brachas, and ideally before match, before the wick, whatever match hits the wick, all right, you have in mind, I have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah to rabbanan, to light Hanukkah candles, Asher Sem, and the mitzvah Persumi Nitza. Next. Now, these are the heart, okay? Once you put the one before the zeros, here comes the zeros, here comes the heart of it. What's the point of it? And this is important to realize. When it comes to certain mitzvahs in the Torah, like not eating pork and not wearing wool and linen, so there's no. The reason is because Hashem said so. Okay, and with Torah commandments, that's always the primary reason. Hashem said so. Okay, now there are other mitzvahs like Shabbos and let's say tzitzis that you are supposed to reflect on the meaning. It's an important part of the mitzvah. When it comes to rabbinic enactments, I'm not talking about decrees, okay? But when the rabbis enact something, they have a reason that you should know and you should reflect upon. So why do we do the mitzvah of hadlakas naros? So I am going to surprise you and tell you the view of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and then what I would call the more standard view. Both are correct, okay? But listen to this. Rav Auerbach says, most people would think that why do the rabbis enact lighting the Hanukkah menorah, the main mitzvah of Hanukkah? Come on, the oil burned 8 days. It's a no-brainer. And Rev Shlomo Zalman says, wrong. That's not the reason. It's because Hashem saved us. He did a salvation and a military victory. That's the reason he says they even enacted the mitzvah. Okay? You hear this? It's a shocker. Okay? But what mitzvah is it to appreciate that Hashem saved us, right? And now we're hearing a lot of miracles, right? But even not miracles, just the fact that people, like hostages are released. Okay, let's take that, right? Zecher Chazdei Hashem. We have a Torah commandment to, most people are not totally aware of this. If you're part of KLM, you're very aware, but there's a mitzvah to remember all the acts of kindnesses that Hashem has done since he took us out of Egypt, gave us the miracles of the man and the water, and all Jewish survival and salvation, and the fact that you're breathing and you feel good. Okay, it's everything. But anyhow, you have a special, here's what you should reflect on while the candles are burning. I want to fulfill the mitzvah of Chazdei Hashem, to recognize and recollect the kindness that we defeated them. We got our true life, our spiritual life back, right, from the Greeks. And we were able to go back in the base. All that reflection, right, about the victory, you should have in mind, remembering his kindnesses. Now, we can't ignore the 8-day miracle. After all, I mean, why are we doing 1, 2, 3 to 8? It's crystal clear that we also with Halachas Menorah, the most of the commentators will say it's to remember the miracle, the above nature miracle, the open miracle. That's a different mitzvah. Okay, they can overlap, but when you remember nature not functioning normally, but functioning on the behalf of the Jewish people and the Kohanim, etc., that's a Zecher Gadlus Hashem. Okay, remembering the greatness of Hashem and His Hashgacha Pratis. Those are the mitzvahs. Okay, so that's all I want you to concentrate on is the blessing. I mean, no, this is your main part of concentration. I really want you to do this well tomorrow night in particular, right? Have in mind the mitzvahs involved with the blessings, and then the mitzvah after the blessings, before you light, on the act of lighting, and then the reflection mitzvahs. That's gonna put the heart into your Hanukkah. Okay, now. Okay, we finished the main thing. What I want to do in just the remaining few minutes, what I want to discuss is what I promised you. I always try to deal with the following. Hanukkah is 8 days. And if there was ever a time to be on fire, okay, pun intended, it's these 8 days, all right? So I thought, what mitzvah can we kind of do to push us to pray well, to thank Hashem, to do Hallel, what can to learn Torah? I'm going to show you all the mitzvahs. See, this is the 8-day program, right? And by the way, for all listeners, if you would like to get for each day of Hanukkah guidance on how to maximize and connect with mitzvahs, please email me at Rabbi Wegbreit at gmail.com. Or our WhatsApp group, if you're a part of the WhatsApp group, etc. So anyhow, here's this is a acronym that has 8 letters. Believe it or not, Hanukkah comes out to be 8 if you spell it this way. And these are the things we have to do, we get to do, right? There's the mitzvah of reflecting the candles, as we discussed. There's a lot of beautiful mitzvahs in Hallel, okay? The Ala Nisim, the way the Gemara describes it, we have praise and thanks, Hallel and Hodah, right? So Hodah is done by Ala Nisim. So we have Ala Nisim in the Shmona Esrei. We're supposed to be learning more than normal, which is sometimes hard on Hanukkah. So we're supposed to be really, and if ever there's a time for us to have a Hanukkah where we're learning really well or more, etc., it's this Hanukkah amidst the war. We have the meals, the Sudas, which we'll discuss in a second. We have Kavanah for the Ma'al and the Hanukkah songs. We have Al Nisim and benching. And we have just Hodah and Hanukkah. Okay, so my point is that we have 8 things to do for 8 days. Well, what mitzvah can we do to really push us and remind us? Okay, here's the mitzvah. Let me just set it up like this. When the whole poskim even say that we have to realize this. I don't want to get into it too much, but when Jews are in trouble, it's not Hashem's fault. It is our behavior individually, collectively. We're responsible. Hashem doesn't make decrees against Judaism and Jews unless there's things that we're not doing well enough. Okay, so they traced it back that one of the main reasons we suffered at the hands of the Greeks was that the Kohanim, on their level, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, it was a little rote, if you will. They were mitroshel. They were a little lax. A lot of people know this. And once Yochanan ben Cohen Gadol and Yehuda Maccabee, when they realized this is because we've been lax, they did. What's the ultimate other side? The other extreme of being lax is going so far beyond your limits that you're willing to sacrifice your life. Okay, we call it Mesiras Nefesh, right? Mesiras Nefesh is what they did because the odds were against them, obviously, in that war. To defeat the Greeks, odds were against them. So they were Moser Nefesh. So I want us to be Moser Nefesh. What mitzvah is Mesiras Nefesh? I'd like to say it's this one. Okay, wait. You see? Oops. Okay. Avas Hashem b'kol nafshecha. Loving Hashem with all your being. It says nefesh means being. Okay? So that means I want as much as possible, I want to go past. You have 8 days. And I can tell you that the soldiers, okay, and the generals and everybody, they're pushing past their limits right now entirely, okay? Entirely. Their life is on the line. They're pushing past their limit. They're Mesiras Nefesh. They're pushing themselves beyond for the Jewish people. We should too, okay? 8 days. But remember, there's no comparison when you have conscious intention. So when you push yourself saying, Hashem, I love you, and I love you with all my being, and I'm willing to go past my normal limits, that's Mesiras Nefesh. Okay, the ultimate sacrifice in pushing is to give your life. But as Rev Noach Weinberg Zitzal, it's absolutely loving Hashem b'kol nafshecha. When you push yourself, you're tired, you feel ornery, but you control yourself. So we have 8 days to do 8 things primarily. We want to do with everything we got. Okay, so that's the game plan. So I want you to have in mind Avos Hashem b'kol nafshecha when you try to persist and have continuous momentum. Now, good. We're done. And we're going to have a 5-minute little discussion session, but I want to start it by fulfilling what I promised you at the beginning of this year. And that is, let's deal with this question. It's very important, is how do you celebrate Hanukkah? Celebrate, I'm talking about. It's a holiday. It's, you're supposed to be joyous. The question is, how do you celebrate it when so many people are suffering? People are mourning. People are suffering, all over the place. All right. So does it feel right to, be joyous and happy and Hanukkah parties? So I asked Rabbi Yitzhak Breitowitz, and I just want to share with you what the Rav said. Okay. And then I'll make a little point, and then I'm opening up for discussion. Okay. So I asked him, this question. I said, I'm giving a share, etc. So his first response to me, can you see the screen, but Daryl?
Yes, very good.
Okay. But I don't know if people should see his email. No, I think he's okay. He's such a great. But here, don't pay attention to his email, please. Okay. Anyhow, he said, in response to me, he says, I think it's very important to have simcha shel mitzvah. That I'm going to we'll discuss in our discussion group. We should have simcha shel mitzvah even in times of sorrow, of difficulty. This itself is a merit for the Jewish people, okay? But it's still, you should say Tehillim, etc., okay? So I said, Rabbi, good, I hear you, I believe you. But I said, why isn't it's still, what about some people might feel it's like insensitive on some level? So let me share with you what he said, okay? He says, even in times of suffering and distress, Hashem wants us to serve him with happiness and joy. Now listen to this next part. It's like such a beautiful validation of what we're focusing on. Mitzvos are beautiful. They connect us with infinity, and the strength of that connection very much depends on the attitude and kavanah we bring. Hanukkah is a time of great light that dispels darkness. We need that light. We connect to that light with joyous avoda if we do the mitzvahs with love and joy. Okay? So I'm hiding behind one of the most wonderful rabbis in our times, and I think what he said is quite valid. Okay, so I want to thank everybody. I want to remind people, if you want to get the 8-day program and any other of the graphics that we put up today, either email me at Rabbi Wegbreit at gmail.com, or check on the WhatsApp group. Okay, so let's just open it up for questions. Hello. Okay, great.
Hello. Thank you, Rabbi Wegbreit.
Welcome.
A couple of quick thoughts. There was that. I think there was a movie, Field of Dreams, that said, and there was the saying was, "If you build it, well, they will come." And it seems to me like, obviously there are parallels between the Maccabees and the battle and what's going on now in Israel. And the idea that, we have such emunah in Hashem that just like he did the miraculous, as we say in the Al Anisim, against all odds in the various ways, right? That we're confident that that's going to be the result, and the emunah it's sort of like a little bit of feels like a cousin of Nasev and Nishma or of Nachshon ben Amitab. We're gonna jump in to the attitude of confidence and victory, even when we're suffering. We know that it may not come tomorrow, but it's coming. In many ways, it's like the whole people living in Israel, right? They're like, okay, we're not going to wait for the actual Beis Hamikdash to descend on Har HaBayis. We're going to go. We're going to go now, and we're going to accelerate the timeline and with our faith. So it feels like we're in that that there's that here too. The other point, is if you build it, they will come. If you build your simcha, if you build your emunah, right, the results will come. And the other thing is, there's a I don't know when it was written, but there's a very popular song where the refrain is "Can't touch this, can't touch me, can't touch this, can't touch this," right? And it's about like someone being so far ahead in a race, you can't touch me, or someone being so much more successful. And it feels like what a statement to our enemies, that as they try to now destroy us, we're lighting candles. We're celebrating. I mean, to me, being joyous and lighting candles and connecting to Chanukah on whatever level is a resounding statement. Am Yisrael Chai.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's saying to them, can't touch this. Like, you can try every way you want, but you can't touch this, right? Beautiful. So I think it's on that level, it's a very strong defiance of the enemy's goals.
A holy defiance, right? Yeah. Exactly. Beautiful. And what you just thank you as always, and that is right. The emunah that everybody is expressing right now, for sure, is essential. And the other thing is I wanted to, what you reminded me. Breitowitz says Simcha Shel Mitzvah. So you know what? I think there's two things. A lot of people right now are understandably depressed and anxious and worried. It's if you have empathy, it's a very appropriate thing right now. And so that can turn into depression and despair. And so for the people right now that, and I totally, I mean, I just like this one person I know well, his son got moved from the West Bank to Gaza. You imagine what you think your son has just now been dispatched to Gaza, how he feels and stuff. It is easy to be brought down by what's happening and depressed. So first of all, what I want to say there is for people who there is a tremendous mitzvah in identifying with their pain, tremendous, and we should have it in mind even during Hanukkah, like Rabbi said. So we should feel the pain and sadness for them, but we should make sure that that's channeled as a mitzvah, and that'll help them, right? And then, but the other thing is, the good thing about this is on Hanukkah, whenever there's joy, so the Vilna Gaon says, whenever there's a situation of simcha, the Yetzer Hara is right there, and he wants to turn it into frivolity, right? Levity, frivolity, and squandering time learning Torah. Okay, so what I think is this year, I think that it's not going to be as hard for us to not spin over into frivolity. You hear? We can make this a joy of mitzvah and devekus to Hashem. You know, and yeah. So I think that could be the right balance. You know, we shouldn't be depressed. We should feel. We should know say ba'ol. But we should be joyous, but not frivolous. And who can be frivolous right now? I don't think it's possible. But again, I want to thank you because the emunah and confidence in doing these mitzvahs is an essential component. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. By the way, you know what? I was going to go short. I really tried, but I just want to finish with one story. About Dr. Setzer's son, Rabbi Aryeh Tzvi Setzer, when he was in yeshiva. So at the time, I was the mashgiach, which means I'm like we call it the warden. No, what's the other name? The principal, the truant officer. So, you know, if people want to get out of the learning seder or something, they have to come to me and give me a reason for it, an excuse. So it's the night of Hanukkah, and again, most people are parties and different things. And I was actually, my wife's uncle is a retired general, and he was by us for a Hanukkah meal with his daughter, who was at the college Technion in Haifa, very good school. And I get a call in the middle of the meal. I'm talking, and I say, are you sure you're not needed? Okay. Yeah. It's fine. So, you know, his daughter was a little curious. What was that all about? And I said, well, one of these students at yeshiva, he was invited to go to a party for a wedding meal, post-wedding meal, the Sheva Brachas. And, you know, he didn't have that much of a relationship to the, you know, people. And he's saying, you know, I'd rather learn Torah tonight. You know, it's Hanukkah and everything. Is it okay if I don't go to that and I stay and learn? And I said, well, are you needed? You know, do they need you? And he says, no, they have enough people. And it's okay. I said, okay. So I told her, you know, because for her, you know, studying is academic. Studying is something you have to do. But he wanted to learn Torah. There you go. That's the joy and kedusha of Torah drew him. He preferred to do that, and he wanted to do that. So anyhow, I think that's a beautiful model for us. Thank you, Dr. Sesser, for bringing him into the world. Okay.
So just take my wife, Rabbi. Just take my wife.
Okay.
I mean, he's took a goofy, but she actually brought him into the world, not me.
You're a doctor. I can't argue with you. Okay, everybody. A Freilichen Hanukkah of mitzvah. All right. And thank you, Rabbi Michael.
It's